I'd like to welcome John O Sullivan from SEAI to the stage. He's going to chat to us about IS 399 and deeper engagement with SEAI from the corporate community. Over to you, John.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for holding on. I guess we've picked the second shortest straw of the afternoon, but delighted that you all stayed on. As Conor mentioned, really the two key takeaways that I would like you to go away with today is, first of all, just think about further engagement with SEAI and deeper engagement with SEAI. A number of you there we know already, but we'd like to share with you some further supports that we can offer, and obviously encourage you to continue that relationship with SEAI in the long term. I'd also like to take the opportunity to speak to you about a new Irish standard, which is called IS 399, the standard we've developed specifically to address energy efficient design management. Now, unlike other speakers here today, could I just ask, it's not a competition, but how many people have heard of IS 399 as yet? Okay, good, not too bad. So we'll get another 90 or 100 out before the presentation is out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very quick skim over the type of supports, the type of engagement with SEAI, and then in the second half of the presentation I'm just going to share with you what IS 399 is, the benefits, and how you can go about using it, and take it from there. So I suppose briefly, there's many different ways that you can engage with SEAI. It very much depends on your size, the scale of your energy consumption. If you're very small, down to a micro site, if you like, or very small SME, you can avail of very basic web support or on-site assessment through our advice, mentoring and assessment program. The relationship with SEAI is over a relatively short period of time, but you get the benefit of an on-site assessment plus some follow-up over a 4-month time frame. If you're an SME where an energy management system using ISO 50001 isn't necessarily your thing, then we do have a resource that we refer to as Energy Map, Energy Management Action Program. You can avail of training on that scheme. It pretty much breaks down an energy management program into 20 steps or 5 pillars, and you can engage in a course of training that trains you in the use of that resource, along with energy management training in general. We've run a number of these every year, and we're obviously looking to continue to roll this out in 2015. If you are a large energy user, like many of you are here today, then we would encourage you to get involved in our energy efficiency network. It's actually now a very mature network. It's almost 20 years old. It's called the Large Industry Energy Network. And we have also now a public sector partnership program, which is pretty much using the same model of a network as the LIN, and using the I suppose the efficacy and the benefits that we've seen over 20 years of the LIN and applying it to that program also. If you want to take it a step further, we do encourage strongly the approach of a certified energy management approach. By certified energy management, we now are talking about ISO 50001. A number of speakers have already mentioned IS 393, 16001. That has now, I suppose, evolved to an international standard, ISO 50001. And you can avail of various tailored supports through our Energy Agreements program. We get involved in many other areas. We are establishing a network of sustainable energy zones. We are involved in standards development, which I'm going to talk to you about now. We have our energy awards once a year, and we have our energy show once a year. And I suppose I'll take this opportunity just to plug our energy show for this year. It's actually 4 weeks from today, the 24th and the 25th of March. So we'd love to see you attend that show. On the right-hand side here is pretty much showing the various different programs that that runs in addition to our ongoing programs around energy management, which typically are programs that are other forms of intervention in the market, from a grant to accelerated capital allowances in order to stimulate energy efficiency action. I'm going to move on in the interest of time. I suppose the takeaway at the moment is we just encourage you to think about a certified energy management using 50001, or to engage with us on our Energy Map training program. Another area that we have support for, where companies have viable projects, and there's obviously a path that you follow in order to determine the technical feasibility of those projects, and clearly there's a requirement to seek capital to fund those projects. Then we have what we refer to as our national framework, which is a framework where you can engage with energy service companies using innovative energy contracts, which could be full-scale EPCs or energy performance contracts, energy performance related payments, or local energy supply contracts. We're offering support for that at the moment, where you engage in a process of, from a project concept stage through to actually having a project identified to the point where you can seek funding either internally or using the Energy Efficiency Fund or your bank. What's the language they want to speak, and what's the level of detail that you need to have a viable project and see the return on investment. Moving on to energy management. This is just showing that we've matured in knowledge. We have a body of knowledge that we've developed. These are key milestones along the way over the last 10 years or so, or 20 years I should say. And this year we have an emphasis on three things. One is our energy management maturity model. It was just referred to actually in the Estellas presentation. By June, hopefully by June of this year, we'll have a portal available on our website where people can look at that model for assessments. We have the IS 399 Energy Efficient Design Management Standard. We want to roll that out, and we'll also want to roll out a suite of new guidance standards that we were involved in their development, specifically ISO 50004, which is guidance on implementation of 50001, but there's another 4 to 5 standards there in the area of energy auditing, measurement and verification. Primarily would be two areas that you might have an interest. So I want to talk now about the Energy Efficient Design Management Standard. And clearly, there's a business case for it. Here today we're talking about many different, the opportunity that's available when a plant is operational, and the scale of energy efficiency, energy conservation measures that are available. You could ask yourself the question, were they not available in the design stage? And very often they are. Clearly a plant evolves over time, but these two curves here is really just showing or illustrating the impact that's available with a smaller investment when you're earlier in the design, as early as possible in design stage. So that's the business case that we went after. Prior to this, we developed an energy efficient design methodology with companies that are in our network. And this is just to explain, I suppose, why we decided to standardize this methodology, because we found that the savings impact was really tremendous. There's something really, really good here if it can be availed of, if it's maximized. However, we found that it's very dependent on SEI in our communication to share it with and tell people about it. So we felt by developing a standard, we might get its uptake might increase. These are just an example of projects that were involved that use this specific methodology. At an earlier stage, Eli Lilly with a 30% on a baseline improvement on a new biotech facility down in Kinsale. What was Wyatt? This plant actually never operated. There was an improvement of 51%. Estellas Ireland, again, our previous speaker spoke about this to some degree. We were involved with a project with them which they implemented a number of years ago, which the theme was very much about driving energy efficient design down the supply chain. So where you're buying, in this case, a bespoke turnkey line, then you need to challenge the supplier, and very often there's a big prize at the end of that. In this case, 19% of the energy consumption. NIPRO and our latest, I suppose, flagship case study was the new brewery in Diageo, who were communicating and promoting, I suppose, a saving of 2.5 million a year through the use of this methodology. So there's something really good here, and the question is, how do we go about using it? So we've developed this new standard. This is what it looks like. It's IS 399. It was published last August, but we only launched it last December, so it's very new. You can purchase it from standards.ie, and it is a standard. It's been designed in a way that it can be used as a management system standard, so you can be certified to this standard. You can integrate it with 50001, should that be the course that makes sense as an energy user if you already have 50001. It's also applicable to any company involved in the design process, which includes energy consultants and also design companies. They can be certified to this standard. So what is energy efficient design? This is actually the definition that's in the standard. It's about the organization, the processes, guiding principles and control that's implemented in design projects in order to reduce its life cycle energy consumption. And we saw this as very much a weakness in implementation of 50001. Clearly energy efficient design is part of and included within 50001, but we just don't see it operating. Typically it's an operational control procedure, but unfortunately very often new investments are outside the boundaries and scope of that standard, and also the organization that implements the design are not the owner operator. So clearly there's a break there in I suppose in logic. So hence the reason for this. As I said, it's relevant to all stakeholders, and it is relevant to any sector, any organization and any project. So just looking at just one level of detail into the standard itself, it is based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act model. I'm assuming here people are, it's been spoken about all day, people are aware of that. It's a continuous improvement model. The black circle here is intended to kind of illustrate that you can implement this as a management system and you can be certified to it. But what's unique about this compared to other standards is what's on the right hand side, which is actually a clause 8 in operation. So you don't necessarily have to implement this as a management system standard. You can apply it to a discrete project. So if you're an energy service company, or if you're a design company, if you're a company that has 50001 but don't have this, you can look to clause 8 in the standard and just implement the requirements of that and just get the benefit of it in that project. Obviously what you lose out on is the continual improvement aspect from project to project, and obviously addressing some of the institutional issues within the organisation and addressing energy efficient design, which would come if you have it implemented as a management system. There's a few things that are different. I mentioned earlier about organisation. There's a recommended organisational structure. This is it. It's adding 2 new unique responsibilities, one being an energy efficient design owner and the other being an energy efficient design expert. In my next slide I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but essentially the energy efficient design owner is somebody from the user organization that's taking ownership for the energy efficient design process, and the energy efficient design expert has responsibility for implementing the energy efficient design management process. They act independently and autonomously from the design team, so there isn't a conflict of interest there in terms of other barriers that affect energy efficient design, which is typically constraints around cost and schedule. This is the structure, and then this all happens in the context of an ongoing continual improvement framework if you have it implemented in the form of a management system, illustrated by that black circle. So the energy efficient design owner is accountable to top management. They report to top management for implementing the requirements of the standard, and the design project application. The energy efficient design expert is responsible for the day-to-day execution, coordination and management of all the activities. To illustrate what those activities are typically, this is the suggested sequence of activities. It starts with a project execution plan. Now, all design projects would have a project execution plan, so the intent here is that you embed into the design project execution plan the energy efficient design management project execution plan, and that deals with things like, what are the objectives, what are the targets, what's the criteria for a good idea to actually be justified to be incorporated into design, how are you going to communicate them, etc., 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 and establishing those up front. We've called this group of three design for energy performance process, and it's a three-stage process where you firstly perform an energy balance study, you then challenge and analyze that design, and then you go through a process of implementing opportunities that arise. So within the standard, there's quite a number of requirements that are set for each of these specific phases of this design for energy performance process. The output of that should be an energy savings register, and again, it's the responsibility of the energy efficient design expert with the energy efficient design owner to get those ideas onto the design table and implement it, and actually bring it right through to the construction and commissioning stages of that project. In parallel with this, we commence a process that we call design for energy management. Now, everybody, just by saying that term, everybody would probably understand what that means. It's about bringing the requirements of energy management, once the plant is operational, again onto the design table. So you look specifically at three things there. You look at an energy variables review, so what affects energy performance in that design. You try to establish upfront what's going to be your energy measurement plan. So requirements for metering, or requirements for M&T, etc., that may exist in the existing plant are taken care of. And the other thing, which is a relatively new concept, is energy performance deterioration. So again, upfront, you would try to determine, well, how could energy performance deteriorate over time, and is there something that we can build into the design to control that, or at least to inform that. And then the final part of the process is the energy efficient design project summary report, and that's where you report on the savings, maybe the co-benefits, the non-energy benefits, and you also hand over the information that you've gathered to the energy management organization. So clearly there's a handover from the design organization to the user organization, and you don't lose a lot of the knowledge that was built up during the design process. And typically there are opportunities that weren't possible to be implemented in the design stage, but don't necessarily need to be lost once it's handed over and it follows through and it moves from the energy savings register to a register of opportunities within IS 50001. So my last slide. To close, we would just encourage everybody to further engage with SEI. We'd love to talk to you more about IS 399, in addition to all our existing and ongoing programs. Please make contact with us on that. We'd love to get involved. If you have any investment project, this standard, by the way, is applicable to small projects right through to large, full greenfield site design projects. It's also, in as much for smaller projects, it is for large. So we can support those, and we will be able to support those financially through a grant to facilitate potentially the energy efficient design expert, or certainly through a special investigation grant that is available to network members. So please learn more about IS 399. Use us with that regard. We would hope that you consider to apply it in a project setting. Possibly look to, if you have 50001, consider integrating it with 50001, get the most benefit. It will lead to significant energy consumption, and clearly it lowers the baseline from where energy management starts, so you're already at a very good starting position. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much indeed, John.